I have read 13 books this year, which is a lot less than I've wanted to read. My goal for this year, well, 2025 even, was 20, but we didn't quite manage it, and we are already doing quite bad come January now. So, anyways, doesn't matter. Let me just show you the list, the full list. Here they are. There's one on the bottom. Okay, so starting from the first book I read, which is a tiny little book that I bought actually in Barcelona when I was visiting 2 years ago with Ree. It's called Grief is the Thing with Feathers, and it's a tiny book. It's written in kind of like an interesting, weird way, like this. It's by Max Porter. I believe it was his first book. I can't quite remember, but it's an interesting read. It's about grief, like in the perspective of this bird that thing with feathers. I don't know if I said wings. That kind of accompanies this dude whose wife died, and this guy has 2 kids, if I remember right. And the bird follows them and stuff, and they kind of learn to live with the bird. They learn to like the bird. A few things. It's kind of written in like a poetic kind of way. You have to read between the lines. But I liked it. Thought it was cool. It's an interesting start to the year. Definitely like no reason not to read it. It's tiny. So yeah, that's book 1. Okay, so then we get a bit more serious, and we read the Cal Newport's kind of latest iteration in productivity, which is slow productivity. I always quite enjoy reading Cal Newport's books. They are easy, in my opinion, to read. Still somewhat deep. They always seem to be written in kind of the same approach: 3 parts and 3 chapters per part. I think that's how it goes. It's quite nice. Again, like I think there's only so much you can take away from these books. Like it's there's only so much you can read about productivity without being productive. But it was cool. I definitely like the approach to this, which basically, if I remember right, it's the beginning of the year, so actually I'm kind of foggy on the stuff. It's basically wanting you to slow down, right, as you can kind of expect, and literally do less things. So it wants you to concentrate harder on fewer things, have one project ongoing, not a million, and do that thing kind of well. And it kind of puts it back into perspective, like some of the best works of art and works of engineering in the world were done over years, not over hours. And I think that's quite important in today's very rapidly moving world, with the whole like hustle culture and you must do everything now. It was a good reflection. He's obviously gets a lot done, so it's not written by someone who doesn't get anything done. Yeah, the cover is really pretty. Actually, it's kind of like mountainside, some trees. It's cool. Good book. All right, rattling through these fairly quickly. How long are we at? Well, we're in 3 minutes, so I think we're doing okay. This next one was a recommendation by a friend. Whoops. I knew that was going to happen last year. Let me put all of these back. Oh, there we go. I'm going to start rambling on some of these more than the others, so be prepared. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. Now this was really funny. Really fun read. Had no idea what to expect. It follows the life of this guy, Carl, if I remember right, Carl something. Alan, that was it. And just his life, his 100-year life and existence, and it kind of it jumps a lot between his current life when he's 100 and climbed out of a window and disappeared, and when he's a young boy. It goes between the two a lot, and actually, I found myself kind of when I was reading one part, I wanted to read the other, and I was reading the other part, I wanted to read the other, because it like captivated both I was very interested in both parts of the story. His younger self and then his older self. It was actually really fun. It's a good book. It's nothing like crazy. It's not going to tickle like some crazy intellectual like need or whatever. But It's a good bit of fiction, actually. I don't like the ending. The ending extends to a sequel. This is the only thing I don't like about this book. I think it's like a really nice standalone book, but it's cool. Like, it's actually great. I had no real expectations while going into it, apart from one of my friends enjoying it. Yeah, definitely cool concept. Liked it. Next, we stay with fiction, and probably my favorite fiction book of this year, which is Blood of the Elves, The Witcher. Now, a couple of my friends love these books, and my first introduction was not the game. I never actually played the games, although I should, because apparently they're really good. My introduction was the Netflix show, and I guess it's pretty good for the first few seasons. I think it falls off, but the book is so much better. This was such a good read, like genuinely, such story, such world building, just such a good book, and I can't wait to read the rest of this. It was quite nice knowing, like, having watched the Netflix show, that I knew a little bit of what was going on. Otherwise I wouldn't have known, but yeah, this is probably one of the great works of fantasy, that has ever existed. Like one of the best ones for sure. And I really enjoyed the relationships in it, especially, obviously, like Geralt and Ciri, and Yennefer's, and obviously, what's his name? Forgot his name. Let me see if I can flick through this. The funny guy. Can't remember. Dandelion. That was it. Or where is his real name? Yeah, it was really good. Very political, lots of stuff going on, like a lot of factions to keep in your mind. I enjoyed it so much, and I'm gonna read the rest. I didn't buy them because I knew like I would crunch through them pretty quickly. It's like Game of Thrones. I still haven't read. I still haven't finished Song of Ice and Fire, even though I know I could very easily. Yeah, The Witcher, probably my favorite fiction in a while. Definitely recommend if you're looking for something to read in this kind of like fantasy genre. Alright, we get on to quite a few non-fiction non-fiction now. This is like the last fiction-y book. Okay, it's called A Happy Death by Albert Camus. Last year I read a few of his books. This I found a little bit less inspiring, to be honest. A lot of so it follows the life of this dude, who's quite similar to the guy in Stranger, or maybe it is the guy from Stranger, but before the Stranger. He kind of goes traveling, and he has some thoughts. I actually can't remember much of this book. I didn't enjoy it very much, but it's probably on me. I think this book kind of missed its mark with me. Wasn't super inspired. So yeah, but still well written. Definitely enjoyed it, but was a bit. I didn't feel like I didn't actually understand what the point of the book was, which is fine. It's a bit less refined than other Camus' work. Like The Stranger was very concise, and like it's very understandable what he was trying to do. Whereas this is a bit harder. That could just be on me being lazy when I was reading it, not quite understanding it, but still, good book. So that was A Happy Death. Next was a very scary book, in my opinion. Ultra Processed People by Chris Van Dolken. If you know him, he's the guy in the UK who did an 80% ultra processed diet. He's a doctor, if I remember right, and he documented what happened to his body, and it's part of the book as well. Yeah, right. This book is a bit grim. It talks about the evolution of food in the world, like what changes, what is convenient food, like what is ultra processed food, the rise of it in our diets. A lot of weird stories of how food is made, like ultra processed food. Studies about you eat more of it. Food scientists measure for speed, like for how quickly basically read things. I think it's actually quite a good book to read. I don't know. To be honest, I can't quite tell to it's like how credible it is, because well, I don't know. It felt pretty credible. Um, but it's definitely interesting. Maybe a topic that we don't talk too much about. Like the evolution of food has been very drastic, very fast. Um, and it's like such a huge part of people's diets that we eat stuff from supermarkets, and that stuff isn't always great. Um, so yeah, no, it was very good for sure. So moving on, we have a book by what's his name, DHH, very famous programmer, creator of Ruby on Rails, and Jason Fried. I don't know who he is though. It's called Remote Office Not Required. It's a book about remote work, funny enough. Did I like this book? Yes. It's very short. So, for example, like this is kind of one chapter. Talks about what you should do in order to have a successful remote first company, how you as an individual should act, what you should do, and just kind of guidelines basically as to how to make it work. I actually had lots of interesting conversations at work about this. I work in an office now, which is different from what I used to work, which was remotely. And it made me realize that remote work is hard, and harder than in office work, in my opinion. A lot of the things that are hard in remote are quite easy in office, or vice versa, but I think the remote options are harder to deal with, which is fine, but actually, I think if you do work remotely or are about to set up a remote company or about to have a remote role, you should think about it and like really invest some time into what that means and what culture you should instill in your team, what protocols and rituals you should have, because it's hard actually. It's very easy for someone to get lost. It's very easy for things to slip. It's very easy to feel alone. So this book actually helps with like this kind of guideline of things you can do, and why it's good actually. Why it is that you can have a very successful company remotely, but it's not as easy as you think. So yeah. Next up, we have kind of a bad book in my opinion. It's called Shortcut Your Startup. I just saw it at a bookstore, and I like this kind of books, so I got it. It's fine. There's one very interesting thing here, if I remember, which basically says, really get in there, do your homework. So, find the demand before you build a solution. One of the really interesting parts is unfair advantages. That resonated with me a lot, which is the concept of your team will have natural unfair advantages. So it could be that you have an incredible engineering team, and that's your unfair advantage. You're all very good at engineering, so you can make better products than the competitors. It could be that one of your team has worked in an industry you want to sell to, so that's an unfair advantage. It could be you have licensing agreements, like all sorts of things, and you must press those unfair advantages as much as you can. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't particularly like this book, but it's okay. The next one I really did like, and this is a classic. It's called the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's kind of a very, very famous book. It talks about two groups of habits plus a seventh one, which is a refinement habit. If I remember right, one of the groups of habits, so three habits, have got to do with like personal behavior, and the others have to do with behavior with other people. It's really good. I recommend any person to read the book, and actually I should go back and kind of reread it not reread the whole thing, but kind of rehash what I wanted to do. This like really puts into like really nice, well written words certain things you can do to like really make your life better. Not just in a professional sense, in a sense of your relationships with other people. It's great, actually, genuinely. I recommend it highly. Not to bore you too much about it. The next one was actually Book of the Year 2024 at Waterstones, if I remember right. It's Butter. It looks like a block of butter. It's a quite cool book. It follows this journalist who goes on this kind of like food adventure in a way. She meets this serial killer or alleged serial killer who like helps her discover food. And this really weird character who dislikes men in a way. Loves men, dislikes women. Yes, that's the one. And it presents Japanese society very well. How like they have the kind of ingrained sexism, their dislike to like bigger people, and his book plays so much on this. Shows like an insight into Japanese work culture, how their relationships develop, the kind of people that you'd find. It's actually good. It lost me a little bit towards the end, to be honest. I was a little bit bored. But it's really good. It's really, really well written. Story's not that captivating, in my opinion. I thought it was a bit boring. But from a writing and like culture standpoint, it's a great book. That's Butter by Asaku Yuzuki. Yeah. Also, the book looks great. It looks really cool. One of the cooler covers I know. Okay. Next is a book I really wanted to read for a while, Drugs Without Hot Air by David Nutt. David Nutt has kind of been a really interesting character. I heard him on Alex O'Connor's podcast, so I bought his book. And he used to be advisor for, what was the position? It was like chief scientist of drug policy or something for the UK government back in 2010. And he was fired for going on air and saying that riding horses is more dangerous than ecstasy, which is statistically correct. But obviously the governments do not like that kind of statement because drugs is a very inflammatory topic. And he was not. He was basically pro. I don't know. Not drug use, but pro understanding what it means, and actually putting very uncomfortable things under the public spotlight, which is that alcohol and nicotine are dangerous, especially alcohol is potentially one of the most harmful drugs that humans can take. And he and a bunch of other scientists developed this kind of framework to analyze full risks of drugs in many different criteria, which he analyzes in this book and kind of literally ranks them. And the top three tend to be heroin, unsurprisingly, crack cocaine, and alcohol as the most harmful. Which is crazy because in the UK and many other countries we have a culture, we have a big drinking culture. You know, we drink during holidays, we drink when we go out, we drink to have fun. Which can be kind of crazy when you think about it because, you know, drugs are, like, alcohol's kind of bad. And on the same note, we have the tendency to have a very, very bad relationship with any other kind of drug. So, cannabis and ecstasy and LSD, you know, this kind of stuff that can put people in jail for a very long time. That might actually not even be as harmful as things that are illegal. It's just that kind of thought-provoking book. It's, what should we do? Should we make certain things more legal, others illegal? Like, what should we do? Yeah, it's what the whole book kind of talks about. It's very interesting. He's an interesting person. He's just an interesting person to read about, to be honest. Yeah, I like it. Next, we have a reread that I wanted to reread. So this course is in selected writings by Epictetus. Epictetus is a Stoic writer. He wrote. He used to be a slave. He was set free, and he started this school. It's a good book. Like I wanted to reread it because I remember the first time I read it, I found it extremely useful. But obviously, over the years, you kind of forget what the book was even about. Yeah, a lot of rehashed Stoic principles, a lot of dichotomy of control, a lot of ideas about like the self and understanding your meaning, your role in the world better. It's very good. You know, up there with Meditations for a Stoic book. This one I think takes a little bit more digesting. It's a bit more dense. So, for example, like it's a dense book. I found it very useful to have a notebook next to me so that I could write down notes where I thought about each like passage, which meant it took me a long time to read it, but I think it kind of sat with me quite well. Yeah, it's a good book. It's a great book. I think everyone should read it as well. I Must Die, but Must I Die Bawling. It's the top of the over there. It's great. Last book that I read this year was The God Emperor. This book is basically just Leto II, Paul Atreides' son, thousands of years on as a half-worm. Sorry for the spoilers. As like a mostly a worm, not so human anymore. Talks about the world, the universe that he built. He kind of made himself the enemy of everyone, and everyone kind of gets on because of it. It's just him rambling. It's most of the book is him rambling, which is great, to be honest. I think it makes the book really funny. Like he just talks about random so much stuff. He falls in love in this book, which is interesting. I don't know. All the characters are doing something, and it's just Leo, who's God. It's great. Dude, it's great. This is wacky as hell. Also, it ends really anticlimactically, in my opinion, but still pretty good. Alright, that's it. Do I like that there? Nah, can move it there. That's it for the books that I read in 2025. I'm sorry for the audio. I think the audio is a bit crap on this video, but I started it and I don't want to restart it. Hopefully in 2026 I'll read a bit more. I felt like this was not great in terms of things I could have read. I think I could have read a lot more. The top book of this year, I think I did it last year, so I'm going to do it again this year, was definitely The 7 Habits. I think actually I want to leave this out because I want to go back and reread it in a way, or like just rehash the ideas. This is an amazing book. If you're feeling a little bit lost in life, like you can't quite get things together, and you're a person who responds to books and reading and advice, this is for you. It's a classic. It's the ages, and it's definitely a recommend for me. Definitely my favorite one of this year. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next year. Bye bye.